Alright, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, Connor on Chain. So, I want to cover physical AI, and it seems like the new term that a lot of people are taking over with this is decentralized physical AI infrastructure. So, this is a narrative that I honestly have seen coming for a while. I really think this is going to be huge, so I want to cover a couple coins and just a bunch of information on this narrative going forward. I'm not going to cover any, super degen plays, but we definitely have some in the Discord. But going forward, obviously the market is still very shaky, very uncertain. No one knows exactly what to be doing. But in my opinion, like I say many times, I would rather be placing bets on narratives that aren't narratives yet, that have a good chance of becoming narratives, than putting my eggs in old baskets, if that makes sense. So physical AI is something I'm really focusing on. And we got Alex Garcia here. Made a really good tweet talking about this stuff here. Decentralized physical AI infrastructure, a blueprint for how AI agents, robots, and decentralized compute will work together in the physical world. It's essentially the back end of robotic autonomy at scale. And so here he's covering kind of the key layers: data collection, aggregation, LLM training, which, within the AI narrative itself, many, if not a lot of you guys are probably already familiar. You've probably seen projects that, they do LLM training, whether it's, so many different things. Data collection, almost, I feel like it's just a very common, a simple, an AI project. Even though it's obviously everyone does it in their own specific ways, real world data is aggregated and used to train physical AI agents, or physical AI agents, LLMs tailored for real world tasks, which that is really interesting because this is very true. There's a project on Solana I've been watching for a while that is aiming to focus on that, which I might pull up. I might pull that up later, but decentralized compute. Compute from Web 2 or decentralized sources powers these agents. Compute from, I don't know how I just read that so wrong. Compute from Web 2 or decentralized sources powers these agents. Agents control physical machines. AI agents get deployed to robots/machines that can act autonomously. Now, number 4 is spatial and machine coordination. And so Alex here, it seems like he's talking about physical AI, as I guess at least how it ties into AI agents. And I think that is really going to be one of the biggest things that we see within crypto. Because the reason why I bring that up is because, a lot of crypto projects, there's not many, if any, projects that are legitimately building robots. It's not like we can just go look at the stock market or, different companies like that raising crazy money, tons of valuations. Within crypto, I personally have not seen a project that is, at that kind of scale. But within crypto, there are definitely a ton of really smart developers building things on the software side, and maybe a couple, because I know there are a handful of, really strong projects in the space related to physical AI, but for the most part, I don't think we're going to see too many, if any, projects on the actual physical side of robotics within crypto. But spatial and machine coordination, that was number 4. This we'll get into because one of my favorite projects in the space actually focuses on this. So why this matters? Well, we are witnessing the birth of a real-world AI economy where drones, delivery bots, cleaning robots, autonomous vehicles act as independent agents, which, that's kind of interesting. They're trained on decentralized data, powered by decentralized compute, coordinated through spatial maps and smart contracts. It seems like robotics is just a combination of so many things put together, right? You need all this different decentralized data. You need the compute. You need the spatial awareness and the smart contracts, right? Very interesting, but I want to bring up something here too, because there are just so, if you guys are not familiar with robotics, like outside of crypto, a lot of robots that are being built are nuts. And again, some of these, I'm going to show you guys some robots because I think these are just wild. So, the first one here is Kawasaki Corleo I mean, this is a prototype though. Keep in mind, obviously, this is not going to be out anytime soon. But when I saw this, I thought this was real, and I thought it was legitimately coming. I was shocked. But this is from Kawasaki. Apparently, whatever, maybe a decade, couple decades from now, they will have this. Again, it's not coming soon, but like imagine seeing that just running around. If you're out, if you're anywhere, like that is just nuts. But anyways, a couple decades away. But as far as more robots that might actually come out sooner than that, we got Nvidia developing something like that. I guess Blue,
That wasn't amazing.
something like that. And this is actually a real prototype, I think, of a synthetic humanoid. But humanoids are going to be one of the main, kinds of robots that probably rolls out before almost anything. There are many companies focusing on humanoids themselves, with different parts, different sensors, different, I was going to say kind of skins and stuff, but, materials, different brains, all these different things. When I say brains, kind of just the software and hardware that goes along with everything it takes to build a robot and put it together. There's so many moving parts to it. But this will redefine industries, logistics, self-coordinating delivering drones. And I kind of just mumbled that, but you kind of can get the idea of why I'm just really bullish overall. Not even just within crypto, but just robotics in general. It's something I believed in for a while. But depends here. Real world data economies powering LLMs on the fly. This is where Web3 meets robotics, meets AGI. It's no longer about just virtual AI agents. We're now building the rails for AI agents to operate in the physical world at scale without centralized control. And that is kind of what everything boils down to. It is the infrastructure for autonomous agents that learn, tokenized machine labor, a decentralized robot workforce. If you're in AI, crypto, robotics, or infrastructure, this stack is your future. And this is from Masari Crypto, which I'll pull up in a second. They have really good information, consistently. But I mean, it's the same thing, kind of, what I'm saying. Spatial intelligence and compute, which I'll pull up in a minute. We got robot machines, machine coordination network. We got compute, physical AI agents, LLMs, data aggregation, data collection. It kind of all just goes together. All of these are very important within the entire stack of physical AI. Again, at least within crypto, right? So, two coins that I've been an advocate for. Peak I've liked for a while. As far, I think in every way, shape, or form, Peak is definitely a strong project. I personally would like to see them with some DEX liquidity, being able to trade on chain. They have a few exchange listings, which is fairly solid as well, which is fine. Peak and Aoki, guys, are probably number 1 and 2 in my books as far as very strong long-term potentials for robotics. When it comes down to it, I've said this in one of my last videos or even a couple of my other videos. With some of these coins, guys, just because these are focused on the narrative, not every single time doesn't mean it's going to hit every single check mark if you are looking for a gem. Something like Elky, this is actually one of my favorite projects. This is the one that focuses on spatial intelligence and building the physical infrastructure network for robotics, basically, for robots to actually navigate the physical space. Very bullish on the founder and the team. They're very active, continuously building, showcasing what they're working on. But Aoki to me I think it's a gem. I really like it. But I know when a lot of people will look into it, if you look into tokenomics, things like that, there is sell pressure. Their liquidity is fairly low for at least what their market cap is. In many different ways, you can look at coins depending on how you research. You may question, it might throw you off, or it might, this, that, or the other thing might throw you off from investing in a coin. But something like this, where I think this narrative, it is very rare to even find a project that could even fit any sort of criteria building within robotics. And that is where I'm taking the bet on at least Elky. In full disclosure, I do hold Elky. I've held it for a long time. Peak is one actually do not hold. I still do not hold it. And the point of this video, guys, is full out research. This is not to just call, I'm not going to show you guys 10 different coins, telling you guys to just spray and pray at random coins. These are two very fundamentally strong projects that have great teams, great fundamentals behind it. Peak is building basically an entire infrastructure layer one, or the machine economy layer one. Super interesting. Great team, like I said, behind it as well. Same thing, I think they do have a lot of sell pressure because it is a newer project, but in many cases you can't stop that. But when a narrative takes off in crypto, from what I've known, seeing in the last cycle and even this cycle, when a narrative takes off, tokenomics don't matter. Nothing matters at all, except if you were in the project before it pumped. And when it comes down to crypto, guys, that is where you need to be early in this market, is taking potential bets like this. Again, I'm not telling you to buy these coins right now, but it pays to be early in narratives that aren't narratives yet. Until it becomes the talk of whether it's crypto Twitter or all over YouTube, you're going to see every single person start to talk about this in some way, shape, or form. At that point, you're probably late. That is why I like to cover the coins and at least the topics that I talk about, And this is why I just have such belief in a narrative like this. So we even got Gate Ventures now starting to talk about this. We got the machine economy is evolving, driven by AI, robotics, deep-in networks. NVIDIA calls it physical AI. Robots powered by AI that automate real-world tasks. But what happens when we decentralize ownership and control? And that is what is super cool about this to me. I love the fact that we could potentially be building stuff like this. Robotics without centralized ownership. I think that's really cool. Centralized, I kind of went over this stuff. You guys can check this out as well. But that is what I wanted to cover. Peak and Aoki, and there's actually a third that I have been looking into a little bit more that I do like, which is Geode. This is a coin that's been unsold. They've actually pivoted from another, kind of narrative that they were in before, but now they're focusing on robotics. This coin has been out for a while. The thing is, I don't understand what's going on with their liquidity and stuff like that, but they are on exchanges as well, like centralized exchanges. But Geode is actually a fairly interesting project as well. And again, I don't hold this. This is for research, so you guys can look into these coins and get familiar with the narrative as a whole. Because again, there are only a handful of projects that I can actually look at and tell you that it actually might be something within this narrative. There are literally, I can't even count on my hand how many actually good projects that are in this physical AI narrative. This is research purposes. If you're going to take any call out of a video like this, focus on Aoki. I am holding that one. I love that coin. I am fully betting on that, whether it goes to 0 or it does a 50x from here. That is my bet for robotics as one of my main bags. But that's kind of what I wanted to cover. I just think it is a narrative that everyone needs to be paying attention to. Even at least having an eye for it, understanding what coins are already in this narrative. I think that any of those that I brought up are going to be very strong plays regardless. The only thing holding us back right now is the market, is the old Bitcoin here, trying to figure out what it wants to do. I think it actually looks pretty bullish, trying to get a grip to then push to another leg up here. And with a daily RSI kind of pushing to the upside, I think it looks pretty good. While we get downside, I would not be surprised to see this chop and then maybe attempt to break. If it can break like 88, even honestly 90k way up here, hold a 90k plus for a while, that'll be very good for it. If it holds 90 and then pulls back and bounces, we may actually be off to another leg. So that's what I wanted to cover today. I know it's a lot of rambling, but I just want you guys to get this stuff nailed in your head, so when you look at this video, you're at least already familiar with a couple robotics or physical AI based projects before basically anyone else. That's why I do this research. Um, and like I said, in our Discord, there are a lot more, more degen plays because again, there's when a new narrative comes up, there's always gonna be LARPs and scams, and then these short-term little projects claiming they're doing this and that, where you can still catch hype from. And I'm not saying that the hype is even now, because there's no guarantee the narrative is gonna hit tomorrow or next week. One is gonna come from the market sentiment going crazy, meaning Bitcoin kind of takes off. Two, we got to see some altcoins start moving. And then money eventually is just going to find its way into what is the next hype narrative. And once that hits, it's probably going to be robotics or RWA, if I had to guess, or some sort of AI potentially. But outside of that, that's what I wanted to cover. I appreciate you guys watching. You know, until the next video, I still have been I wanted to make a video about subnets, but I've been just doing even more searching for robotic stuff because this to me is one of my favorite narratives that 2025 is going to bring. So still expect a subnet video coming at some point. But again, outside of that, I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.